Hey, welcome. Today I want to talk about The Echo Elf Answers by Thomas Hardy. And I think this is a really interesting poem that a lot of people gloss over or skip over because it's kind of tricky to see why it's interesting. And because of the format, it seems maybe gimmicky or, I don't know, simplistic even. But it's got some really interesting things going on. So I'm not going to read through it line by line. You can pause the video here if you want to do that. Um, but so what's interesting about this poem first is the title, The Echo Elf Answers. So clearly the title is helping us understand the format of the poem, but it's also very interesting that he refers to the echo as coming from an elf rather than just saying like my echo answered me, right? That could have been the title, or even the echo answers. That would have worked out too. Um, it's interesting that he is like ascribing some kind of agency to the answer that he's getting, um, as if it's not just himself giving the answer that he wants. Um, but of course, he does know that his echo is coming back to him, and when he phrases the questions, he phrases it in kind of a funny way because he's giving the answer he wants in the second part of the question, right? Of course, knowing that it's coming back as an echo. And so he's talking about some woman that he loves, or claims to love. He doesn't seem to actually love this woman very much. I doubt if this speaker is capable of love. Um, but he asks when he'll forget her, in years or by June. And so he's being very specific about when he's going to forget her, right? Because he could have said, will it be in years or months, right? That would have worked. Instead, he's specifying June, and for all we know, like it's June when the speaker is talking, right? But the speaker has a very specific point in time when he's planning to forget about this woman, and so then he says he asks who he's going to woo afterward, and again he gives two options: no one or a throng. And this is very funny because the opposite of no one is not multiple women, right? He could have just said, will I love anyone or someone, right? Or some other thing, right? And you could be, I guess, maybe cynical and say he just did it that way to make it fit the rhyme scheme, but I don't think that's the case. Um, I think he's making it out to he's kind of letting us know that the speaker of the poem has the intention of being in a series of relationships, right? Whether you want to call it serial monogamy or whatever, I don't know. But he's clearly planning to have many relationships afterward, because again, the opposite of no one is not many different women. um, and then so he says, of these shall I wed one long hence or quite soon? Quite soon. So he's planning on doing this briefly, sometime in the near future. Um, and which will my bride be, the right or the wrong? The wrong. So he knows he's going to marry the wrong woman ahead of time, and he will probably still do it, and that is quite problematic for us when we reach the end of the poem. He asks what his solution will be to having married the wrong woman, either wealth wove or earth hewn, and that's kind of an old way of saying earth hewn being like something that you dig out of the ground, right? So you could dig a gemstone out of the ground, or you could also dig a grave for somebody. And given this guy's general mentality toward these relationships, and the fact that you can't really dig a gemstone out of the ground to fix your marriage, that doesn't solve the fact that you married the wrong person. It seems very likely that his plan is to marry a series of women and kill all of them and bury them, or at least the next woman that he marries will end up buried, and that's his plan. So very dark, but that's what we usually get from Thomas Hardy. But again, I think it's a very interesting poem, and very clever in a lot of ways. But because of the format, I think it's pretty easy to just like gloss over it and not really think too much about the details. It kind of seems like just it almost seems gimmicky, really, because of the fact that he's having this conversation with his own echo. So it's easy to read it and just kind of shrug your shoulders. But I think it's very interesting how he specifies the answer he wants or that the speaker wants. I think it's very dark when you go through it. I think at first it almost seems kind of like a pleasant poem in some ways. But if you start to dig in a little bit more, it becomes very obviously dark. And of course, I think the title is a very interesting choice because, again, he's assigning agency to his echoes where there is none. And so this is probably, some kind of very unstable person. But I think it's such a funny poem and very fun and clever. So as dark as it is, I think it's worth a closer look. So I hope you enjoyed this video.